as long as there's a case between one and,
Yeah.
I'll take the court, got most of the information on all of that. They already. Are we still on that?
Well, it came back on. Yeah. What we do?
Just for the record, what would stipulate the chain of custody for items found in the home? We don't have any challenges to those items, we can file any motion.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Expressing them.
Right, chain of custody of the items found in the home.
And just in the interest of judicial economy and.
Right.
mistrial.
It's fairly routine. I mean, you get the stuff in discovery and you get the chance to go through it.
Right.
And,
We've been to the house.
I've seen it time and time again. It's just, they have a ministerial duty to lock, put them in the evidence locker and that kind of thing.
We also have a duty to our client to have.
I know, I understand that. I understand
This
that.
is not a possibility that we were gonna advocate at it, so.
No,
in the interest of-
and it's not a tactic, it's a time saving, a tool that's, unless there's some real dispute about, the chain, it's often stipulated.
Does that include chain of custody for the items that were collected at the postmortem?
If you have Sergeant Pickle here,
We can bring her out. She's in the
here,
back
I
room.
think that is.
but she's here, if you'll recall from the,
She's Lieutenant Joseph now.
She's Lieutenant and Joseph.
You might want, when we take a break, you might want to speak with her, sit down, speak with her, and to go through that informally, just check with her, anyway, whatever you want.
We can bring her out for you. And while we're waiting to do that, can we move on to the second issue?
What is that?
The court entered an omnibus, an order on the omnibus motion. One of those issues was for us to refrain, and we have, from speaking about a gun until it was time to start putting on evidence about a gun.
I need some context, some
Okay, so-
evidentiary context for that.
Can I give you that? The
Well-
reason why you don't have it is because we haven't had witnesses testify to it, but
Right, yeah.
if you want me to, the only reason I hesitate is because I'm afraid when they start testifying, then there will be an objection. We talked about this.
Well,
they just said,
I thought in the order, just approach before you get to that point,
Well,
as you get to that point.
We will be there, 2 witnesses in, and there will not be any mention of a gun until there's a mention of a gun. To give the court just a brief overview, if I may, we have shown that the victim died of a gunshot, bullets found and recovered. The first individual that will speak about a gun is Ernie Shell, the defendant's brother, who will state that he witnessed the defendant while he was telling him that he killed Ronnie King with a gun, that he was holding it, that it was a Smith & Wesson revolver, that he had a file, that he was taking the file and running it through the barrel, okay? All of this concurrently with, as he'll tell you, and the jury can believe him or
I
not.
recall that from one of the hearings.
Right, jury can believe it or not, I mean, it is what it is, but he says he had a gun, he asked me to bring a file, I didn't know what for, when I got there, kind of figured it out when he started telling me he killed Ronnie King, and then I witnessed him use a file to try and clear the barrel. The next witness that will talk about the gun is James Collins, who will reference a gun both on Shelby Shell's person, while Shelby again was stating to him that he had killed Ronnie King, that the gun was around while these conversations were going on. So that's where we're getting on, and the reason why it's relevant is because the killing of Ronnie King occurred with firearm. Shelby Shell, our evidence in good faith, they probably listened to the tape recorders. We have witnesses who we believe are going to say that Shelby Shell told them that he killed Ronnie King.
And your objection was that there's no ballistic match.
That there's specifically a report from the forensic lab that the gun that was collected, the gun they have in evidence, was not fireable at the time, they had to clean it, and then there was no match to the bullet.
The gun he had evidence that you've been, after the gun was recovered.
Right, the gun was recovered.
It wasn't fireable after it was recovered.
From Mr. Shell's truck, which isn't part of the evidence.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that evidence yet.
Okay, was that the gun that he was filing down the ridges and valleys?
As far as the story goes, I would say no, but there's not proof of that either way.
I'm gonna let it in for now, and if it's I have a problem with it later, I'll entertain another motion
Let
to
me
strike.
strongly object and add also Major versus Commonwealth, and I will get you the site, which says that a gun that was used in another gun that one of the defendants had. Yeah, thank you. This is the KSB. I mean, this is
If you'll notice on the KSB report there, the laboratory says they cannot rule it out, and they cannot say that it was it.
But at the bottom, it says it wasn't.
i.e. they can't prove the gun is pulled out, but that's the gun involved in the case.
That's an absurd.
And our
when
client is also
when
charged with
evidence-
committing felon in possession by
Let me
handgun.
read this, Rick. What was the date when was this recovered from the car?
I want to say February 26th, but I'm not, I don't have that.
And this analysis took place in April.
Yes, and if I might add, Judge, keep in mind, I've just stated to the court, we're going to have testimony that a witness says that this individual was taking a file and running it down the barrel of a firearm. Now, an inference could be made that that was done in an event to conceal the ability of the firearm to be matched and to allow a defendant to purposefully, do action like that and then remove the firearm because it's not definitively matched, but it is also not definitively excluded.
Y'all, we
But
can
even
test
if
the government
we
to follow this
get,
right
even if we
now.
don't, even getting past the issue
Hold on one
of
second.
this specific weapon and evidence, right now, we're simply talking about the mentioning of a gun. Our witnesses are going to be stating that he had a gun and he was using a firearm. So if the court wants to withhold its ruling on this gun specifically or this report specifically until we get some more evidence in, then I think the
Let's
court
do that,
would have
that'd be
much more-
fine. My tendency is to let it in, but let's wait and see.
Well, I think that will be the ultimate
Yeah.
conclusion personally. However, I just didn't want to get in trouble with the court by
No,
having
no,
my
you're
witnesses
not.
say, we have a gun, and
Yeah.
then there's the order says not mentioned.
I remember your objection, that had to do with relevancy. I found a case on other acts, it's a McQueen case, where a gun was seen on a table, defendant's residence, and the court said absolutely that's admissible. It doesn't tend to prove that they're bad people or good people or whatever.
Well, Major versus Commonwealth involved a illegal robbery, and the evidence was an older model gun that wasn't used in the robbery, and the court said that was inadmissible, needed to be excluded, and it was reversed.
Key there being wasn't used. We don't know if that gun was or was not used. It was neither confirmed nor
It was
denied.
too dirty to fire until they disassembled it, cleaned it, and tested it.
You got a cite for me?
I do, I'll have to
Well,
Google it.
I need to read it, and and after a while, we'll take a break and I'll
To
read
make
it.
clear though, we're not yet to that point,
I know,
correct?
yeah.
We're going to be talking about a gun without,
I would object to Jimbo and you bringing up a gun until the court is ruled on it.
That's their
And the other
test-
thing is that
that's their
part of the
testimony.
testimony about a gun, I think he was charged for illegally.
Look, that's where we're going. That's where we're going, okay? All right. So,
we may proceed.
you may proceed, yeah. I mean,
I will go, if you want to come back with me, Mr. Aaron or Mr. Simon, or Ms. Joseph, Lieutenant Joseph.
Do I know pro se right here? I got pro se. Cause I do my high council, I got pro se.
Do you have two attorneys and you're not person?
are we ready to get the jury seated?
They're going back. They're going back.
Take the court, got most of the information on all of it. They already. Are we still on that?
Well, it came back on. Yeah. What we do?
Just for the record, what would stipulate the chain of custody for items found in the home?
They're looking at the evidence list.
Two things.
Let's stay. I'm gonna stay.
Shelby pointed out, there's another couple of officials who hasn't. And as we see it, we'll go back.
Good. All right. Report down station.
All right, be seated, please. Morning, folks. Anything to report to me? Any communications made to you or attempted? All right, hearing nothing, we'll be ready to move on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
We're ready.
All right, go ahead and call your next witness.
Jerry Mulkey.
Jerry Mulkey. G or J?
Jay.
J. M-U-L-K-I-E.
It's in
E-Y.
Y.
Okay.
I'll ask you to spell it, but
All right,
I
I've got
understand
it.
it's with a Y. M-U-L-K-E-Y.
Be careful, you're stepping, not falling, take this phone, we don't like people falling. Be careful, bro.
All right, ma'am, Ms. Mulkey, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this trial will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a seat there. Speak loudly and clearly.
Ms. Mulkey, would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your name and how it's spelled?
Jerry Mulkey, Jerry-M-U-L-K-E-Y.
And where do you live, Ms. Mulkey?
I live at Everett's.
Will you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you knew Ronnie King?
He's my brother.
How many were in your family?
I have, you mean the deceased or count me?
Brothers and sisters, just deceased as well.
Well, I have, let's see, I have 3 sisters living, 2 sisters deceased. And I have 2 brothers living now. And Ronnie, my brother, he's dead. And then I had another brother to die not long ago, and then another brother. So that was 5 brothers.
Did you recall the last time you talked to your brother, Ronnie King?
Yes.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about that conversation?
Well, I called him. It was on February the whatever, that day before he was murdered. We were talking that evening.
Was it,
And
you
that's
say
the
it's in
last-
the evening?
Yeah, it was evening because it was kind of at the edge of dark.
Okay.
I mean, he
You were
was.
talking to him on the telephone?
Yes.
And you talked to him many times, I guess, on the
Oh, I always talked to him on the phone. He either called me or I called him.
So you were talking to him on the phone, and what happened?
He said, "I'll call you back in a few minutes. Somebody's at the door."
And did he indicate who that was?
He said, "Dixon."
Dixon. And did you tell the police that he said Dixon was at the door?
Yes.
And who is Dixon?
Kevin Dixon, back in I didn't know him. I'd heard his name before, but I never did know
Well,
him.
we're just asking what Ronnie King.
He just said
to you on the
Dixon's
phone.
at the door, and I'll call you back in a little bit. Because that's how he always did when somebody came over or something. He would tell me he'd call me back. And he usually called me back, but he didn't call me back.
And you understood that to be Dixon?
Yeah, I
Kevin-
understood it to be
Dixon.
Kevin Dixon because that's what I thought.
That's all, Your Honor.
That's all you're direct.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Ms. Mulkey, did you attempt to call back Mr. King that evening?
Ms. Cameron, I'll
Yes.
ask you to
I'm
speak
sorry,
up
I'm
just
not
a
very
little.
loud. I
All
just
right,
realized
thank
that.
you.
I think I tried to call back, yes.
Okay. Do you recall trying to make any calls the morning of the, I think it was President's Day, February 18th?
To my brother?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. No.
Did you,
Unless I dialed his number after my sister called down and told me that he wasn't up or at work or wasn't getting ready for work. He was, she called me and left me a message and said that something was wrong. He didn't come over and it scared me and I jumped up and I possibly might have rung his number. But if I did, there wasn't an answer.
And did you live really close to Ronnie?
I live about a block from him.
Okay. And you talked to him the evening before he died,
Yes.
and he said Kevin Dixon was there.
He said Dixon.
Okay. Dixon was there.
He said Dixon's at the door.
And you took that to mean Kevin Dixon.
Yes.
And you reported that to police.
Yes.
And did you see any cars or anything driving by that evening? Did you look out your window?
No.
That's all.
I did. I wasn't at my home that evening. I went up and was over at my mother's yard, waiting on everything to get done when they was bringing my brother out dead. I wasn't at my home.
Okay. That evening, after he died.
Well, after they took him out, I went home, but I never saw any cars. I guess my mind, I don't know how, that many years back, I didn't see any cars. I wasn't paying no attention. I was just upset and hurt over my brother.
That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Just one, Your Honor. Of course, this has been 6 years ago.
Yes.
And Detective Cornett is going to testify, or has testified, and it's in his report that you told him that when you answered the phone, that when you talked, he said, "Someone's here, it's Kevin Dixon." Now, that's what the detective...
When
do you remember exactly how it was?
he said Dixon, but I could have told the detective Kevin Dixon because that's the only Dixon I ever heard.
And could he have said, "It's Kevin Dixon"?
It's possible, but he said Dixon.
Did you know Kevin Dixon?
No, I don't. I didn't know him. I had heard of him through family members, but my nephew and all them, but I never knew him. I never had met him.
Thank you, that's all.
Any recross?
One last question, just because they came up. Did Ronnie ever speak to you about Kevin Dixon?
No.
He never reported to you that Kevin was suicidal or Kevin had any marital issues? You never had any discussions about Kevin?
No.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, and as a member of the family, we'd ask that she be allowed to sit in the courtroom.
All right. Ma'am, you're excused. You won't be recalled. If you want to sit in the courtroom, you may.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you have anything back on the,
Yes.
okay? If you want to go around and get it, come back around and come through this way. Yes, ma'am, I'll take you back there. Be careful. All right, I'll be there.
Next witness.
Yes.
Your Honor, Commonwealth calls Mike Cornett back to the stand.
All right. All right. Good point. You're still under oath. Have a seat. All right.
We don't have any objection to that.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cornett, I've got some questions for you. First, dealing with yesterday, we covered the Kentucky State Police investigation of a death that had occurred in Everett, Kentucky. We talked about your presence there and your involvement in the investigation. And later, testimony was heard about an autopsy medical examination, okay? The court and counsel for defendant, counsel for prosecution have discussed the issues and giving the voluminous nature of the items taken at those locations. At this point in time, I'm going to request that do you have the evidence with you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Is it segregated into evidence that was taken at the crime scene and at the autopsy? And if not, can you do that prior to bringing it out?
Yes, it should be all individually bagged from separate locations, maybe even as much as separate items for the
Okay.
most part.
Okay, great. Well, then at this point in time, I'm going to ask that you retrieve the evidence that was taken from the residence and the autopsy, and we're going to present that to the court. Your Honor, given the nature of the evidence in terms of the number of items, I think that if council has no objection, we'll simply label them Commonwealth's cumulative, and I don't know what the next number is. 6, Commonwealth's cumulative 6 for the residents, and Commonwealth's cumulative 7 for the autopsy.
All right.
Could you retrieve those?
Yes, sir, it'll take me just a little bit to get everything organized. but-
Okay, Judge, could we, while he does that, because this is a necessary portion, we have to admit evidence, I would request a brief recess, a 10-minute recess,
Okay.
so that he can get those matters ready.
So, items seized from the residence or taken from the residence will be ID'd as Commonwealth Exhibit 6,
Cumulative Exhibit 6.
cumulative 6, and autopsy, physical
From
evidence
the
will be
autopsy, cumulative 7.
ID'd as Commonwealth Exhibit 7.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
May we take a 10-minute recess to allow him to retrieve those items?
All right. Folks, if you need to go to the restroom or anything like that, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Leave your notepads on your seats or in front of you there. Don't speak to each other about the case, and don't speak to anyone else about it. All right? Report back to me if someone tries to contact you.